Hi, MaybePay is a system designed to scale microtransactions by probabilistically batching them. This can be useful in any situation that requires high numbers of transactions with very low amounts, very low value per transaction. So one example use case would be to have a website that has paid content on it that millions of users are trying to access. So normally this would be handled with a paywall, but it's not worth your time to sign up and pay 1 cent with a credit card. So instead, a creator could wrap their API in MaybePay, and the user can access it and just let it deduct from a balance. So in order to demonstrate this, we've built out 3 separate things. The first is the user perspective for visiting paid content. The second is the actual process that the API route owner would have to go through to set up MaybePay on their APIs. And the third is the actual smart contract logic that's being handled and deployed to the Polygon network.
Here's our demo for how MaybePay works from the end user's perspective. So we have, for demonstration purposes, we have an in-page wallet here. This will probably be a browser extension or something more complicated in the full version. But yeah, so we've got that, and these are like sample, like would-be web pages and APIs that back those web pages. So you have a balance here, and you have a deposit balance. This is actually working. If we deposit $5 into here, you'll see that's happening. Okay, and we get the submission has happened and waiting for confirmation. This means it's in the mempool but hasn't made it into a block yet. And we get confirmation, and this ticks up to $80. Cool. So this weather API integrates MaybePay. If I reload this page, you'll see when this is loading, we get this 402 payment required. That's because the server is sending this information, which describes the payment that it wants in exchange for that API. And so we get this information, and we say, okay, cool, I know how to handle that, and it's within my budget. So I'm going to send a follow-up request, and this time the server actually gave us the actual weather response, and that's because the client knows what to do, and it's included this special header X maybe payment, which contains the signature of the transaction, the stuff that the server needs to submit on chain if the payment has been activated. Over here, we have the owner setting page. This is for the owner of the API to monitor, how much money they've made today and how much money they've made this month from all of these micropayments. So you can see these amounts are, appropriately small. These are the kinds of values we'd expect, like 0.03 cents, totally reasonable. And so the way they can configure this is they can say, how much money they want to make in a month for given a certain number of users. So if that was a million, who knows? And you also configure the address that you want your payments to go to. And so you can configure this per API as well. And you just submit that, and then that's how that would work. Hey, this is our smart contract for MaybePay. Over here, we can see that this is actually deployed on the Mumbai testnet for Polygon. So it's not too much going on here. Basically, you can deposit into the contract by just sending tokens to it. You can also withdraw those funds. But then the big part is this claim function, which allows a different user to claim funds from you if you've signed a message. So you have to include the signature here. And it's saying that, hey, for this chain ID, this specific contract, you authorize sending this amount to the sender, which is the service provider, if this condition has been met. And so down here, there's not too much going on, just checking those conditions, marking this claim as having been processed so that you can't replay it and claim it multiple times. And then, if it all checks out, then you just deduct that balance from the consumer and you send it to the service provider.
You saw, it's relatively straightforward to get this working from both sides. So just to explain what happened exactly, the user navigated to the site. The user's browser sends the HTTP GET request. And if it's the first time they visited, the site will send back a 402 payment required response. The next time the user visits, or when the page reloads, the browser knows to send, in addition, a MaybePay signed message that authorizes the payment in the future. And with that, the website will then successfully serve the data. And this entire process only adds one back and forth cycle, and that's about 20 milliseconds. And in order to set this up, there were a few things that are prerequisite. The first is from the end user side, you have to have a wallet and fund it into the MaybePay wallet. On the developer side, you have to actually take the time to set up the routes and to set those thresholds that you saw earlier. So target monthly revenue, for example. And then the MaybePay smart contract will handle all of it after that. So we've discussed this, and there's a lot of interest from various gaming companies or NFT projects or even layer ones who are interested in having a microtransaction system. And so we are excited to look into this a little bit further. Our team is very experienced in the Web3 space, and it was a pleasure working with each and every one of them. So after the hackathon, we're hoping to do a few more things, not just end this here. We're trying to build out an MVP model with a few other features, like an Oracle to kind of determine the prices, and the actual payments could be handled on using any ERC20 and maybe swapped on a DEX. And then to actually take this to the business use case of validating the problem and exploring the market. Thank you.